comes time to go cyberpunk, it happens.
Galaxy within. Turn on brain. Turn on brain. Activate galaxy within. Fine-tune brain. Hungry brain. My brain wants light. Illuminate. Illuminate. Enlighten me. My brain loves light. My brain loves light. Inside.
Light inside.
Doors. So cyberpunk is a person who takes navigational control over the cybernetic electronic equipment and uses it not for the army, not for the government, not for the Lufthansa airline, but for his or her own personal purpose.
Well, look the word up in the dictionary, as I often do. The word cyber comes from the Greek word pilot. And what that means is, can you imagine what that means? The Greek pilots were out there on the little peninsulas in their small craft or the small boats. Meanwhile, you had Persia over there with their armies, and Babylon and Assyria and Egypt, but the Greek pilots were out there where they had no one to guide them except their own thinking. They had to figure out, looking at the tides and looking at the clouds and feeling the wind and checking the land birds and the sea birds, and they had to make their own maps. So it was no accident when those Greek sailors got back to Athens, they began sitting around and deciding that they were going to plot their own lives. It's no accident that the great humanistic individual philosophies of the Western world came from Athens, from people who had learned how to think for themselves, check their navigational coordinates, and pilot their own way through life.
It's cyberpunk. Now you know, everybody in the world knows there have been 3 countercultures in America and the world in the last 20, 30 years. We had the beatniks and William Burroughs, we had the hippies with rock and roll, and now we have the cyberpunk, the counterculture of the electronic age, in which young people all over the world are hooked up in electronic networks, and that's what Billy's doing with this cyberpunk album. The idea that these are people, mostly young, but no matter what your age, who take the electronic equipment technology and they use it for personal human purposes. Not for the man, not for the government, not for corporations. And they can zoom in and out of corporate or electronic ways and to live, to communicate person to person. Yes, I'm a hope seller, but my hope is scientific hope. It's based upon projections from NASA.
But what do you do about it, Timothy?
Well, I go around, I give about 40 college lectures a year. I'm on radio talk shows. I write, I've got 2 books coming out this year, and all my books are based upon scientific facts which give hope to individuals to stand up and control their destiny.
I love the idea that as soon as you get into cyberspace, you start to find out how much you didn't know, how much they're not telling you.
Cyberpunk is the street smart way of saying that we've got to be smarter than the people that run the big machines, and we're learning how to do it.
The best way to describe this in the most homely terms is it's like an aquarium. When you look at a boob tube or put your nose against a computer screen, you're looking at a digital universe there. In the past, all we could do is look at it or perhaps change dials. Now, with the cyberspace techniques, we can go on the other side of the screen and swim around in this aquarium of meeting and meet other people there and computer-aided design of reality. Now, there are many words currently used to describe this ability to create new universes. We talk about virtual reality or artificial reality. Our prophet William Gibson has described the digital matrix, the consensual hallucination of all human knowledge. Here at Autodesk is called cyberspace, and it's a nice place to be.
Today, the most important tool for self-growth and independence of thought is the personal computer. In my lectures, I use history, anecdote, illustrations from pop culture,
social satire, and the cleansing power of intelligent laughter to prepare students for the information age. In my lectures and in question and answer periods, I introduce the audience to new programs which convert personal computers into machines for self-development. These programs, called headwear, encourage independent thinking, they expand consciousness, and they produce higher levels of imagination. They are powerful, they are safe, and so far, they're still legal. My 12-year-old son and my 13-year-old granddaughter, about 4 years ago, they led me into these strange places on Saturday afternoon called video arcades. Yeah. I'd rather be off Dodger Stadium, but and I was a little bored, and then I got interested, and I saw that they were moving things around on the screen, and there were rockets and Pac-Man. I said, gee, you could move thoughts on the screen that way and put your thoughts up there. So for about 2 years, I've been working on this software program. It's called Mind Mirror, and it allows you to digitalize your thoughts.
That the first generation of people who use the computer naturally used it as an industrial device for the industrial factory civilizations, where keeping payrolls, keeping personnel records, and blah, blah, blah. Because the industrial age to do things to objects, that's Newton, force, momentum, work, you can believe that. And in the industrial age, everything is used to do something to some raw material that you have to, and that's why how the computer was used. And that's why, by the way, most of us hated the computer in the 60s. Remember, it said, gee, the word computers, that was going to be the ultimate device for depersonalizing as well. That's because the computer being used as an industrial tool. In the post-industrial, post-political, post-literate age, the computer is used as an appliance to communicate.
In the information age, icons and symbols and information packages are very important to summarize. So these are just icons that help. We call them memes. A meme is like a gene is something. It's a genetic chromosome network that can.
So M-I-M-E?
Yeah, well, genes are biological.
Right.
And that's how evolution happens. And memes are ideas. And what we were doing, we were infected by some highly communicable memes, which have to do with individual freedom and information and starting something new and turning on and going within. And these memes were highly contagious and spread around the world, and we're seeing them pop up now in Europe, and it's very thrilling.
We're going to be living, inhabiting, traveling in artificial reality. The very concept, artificial reality, I mean, isn't that thrilling? A lot of people don't like the word artificial. A lot of people think that, a lot of people tell me drugs are artificial. You eating marijuana has been around for 20,000 years, call that artificial. All right, the artificial reality here is going to hook up with the psychedelic brain. Now, don't believe me. Believe the Wall Street Journal. February 2nd, look it up, February 2nd, front page, Wall Street Journal, column 1, a big article about Jaron Lanier and virtual reality. And the headline said, electronic LSD question mark. There's a picture of Jaron Lanier in his dreadlocks. And the sixth paragraph down the first page, it quotes me as saying, this is better than LSD, it's addictive, but it's legal. Metaphors there. Information is going to be literally almost free, and the power of processing information and of transmitting it and of storing it is going to be much less expensive than the current TV system. So here's what's going to happen. In about 5 or 10 years, you're going to wake up in the morning, and you shower and you have breakfast, and you get dressed for work. You don't go to work, you get dressed for work. Your clothing, of course, is cyber suit and little goggles, and your stripped down, more designer fashion, Paris designer form of this. You put that on, and then your first meeting maybe is going to be with Yoshi over in Tokyo. So you hit a couple of dials here, and then suddenly there's, on your screen, there's Yoshi. Where do you want to meet, Yoshi? How's it in Tokyo? It's kind of rainy. Oh, yeah, okay, when do you want to meet
Hawaii? Okay, let's try Hawaii. All right, so what do you got in Hawaii? And Yoshi will press 2 or 3 things, and he'll show me his Hawaii. And you'll press, I like that, a little more blue sky, yeah. And that palm tree, yeah, okay, Lauren. So then suddenly, you ready? By the way, see, we're exchanging. I can take a picture of myself, bunk, and then bang on the fiber optic thing, and the new picture of me, how I'm looking right now, is in Yoshi's screen. So then I walk down the beach, and I sit down on this hammock there, and Yoshi comes up. Now, when we shake hands, of course, my hand's going to go through his. Now, in a few years, I'll be able to touch his cloth here, and he can feel it. I know what that leads you to think about. We have a wonderful time talking. He shows me what he's got there. He shows me something on his desk. He shows me some pictures he's got, and then we say, well, let's have lunch in Paris, okay? Dunk, dunk, or let's go visit Joe in Barcelona. In other words, in about 1 or 2 or 3 hours, and by the way, this is quality time, you'll have performed work that might have taken you 3 weeks. And by the way, the ecological payoff is sensational. You won't have wasted any fossil fuel. The idea that you will strap yourself in a 300 horsepower vehicle emitting toxic waste and fight the freeways, or even worse, fight the New York traffic, to lumber and bring your body to a place where you're going to do mind work is, I mean, it ranks down there with cannibalism, really. The idea that you would get in a plane and take your body and fly it for 22 hours to get to Tokyo to have 3 or 4 meetings, unless you want to get laid, I mean, is this trip necessary? And I think that to really understand LSD and what it does to the brain, you have to have some intuitive feeling for computers and for video, electronic communication. They certainly go together. It's no accident. That see, what we're talking about now is brain intelligence, being able to dial and tune your brain to more channels, being able to program your own brain. The model or metaphor of the brain is now the computer. Now, that I'm not saying that the brain is a computer, but we always have to use metaphors and models at the highest state of art. The number of synchronicities of the model here is quite clear, that and of course the same resistance to the computer that was shown against the Bible and the automobile and the personal use of drugs. And again, as true of all these as books, true of drugs, true of computers, computers are no panacea. They're simply invitations for you to learn how to program your own computer. Once you learn how to program your own computer, you begin thinking about how you can program your own life, and then you get computer networks. And so that I see the development of computers, personal computers, and video games as being a logical extension of the use of LSD as Beatles records. I think that they really led, I think, once you had that generation of young people that learned how to access and begin to program their brains, naturally they were going to develop the personal computer and the video game. What the information age is all about is we're liberating the brain from the body. Now, don't get upset. You can bring the brain back in the body. Just the body's going to be like a wonderful sports car. Just a minute, please. I'll get it. For your brain. Now, I'll tell you what my brain wants. My brain wants to be fed. And she wants information. My brain wants information. I mean, my brain tells me she can handle 150 million signals a second right now, and with a little training I can get her up, run her up to 200 million signals a second. My brain wants to be fed electronic information. I have a concept now which is very useful. It's called RPM. is how you measure your brain acceleration. RPM means realities per minute. I calculate that I'm using my brain 50 times more efficiently than I was in 1960 before I took LSD, and when I had one phone that dialed like this and one black and white TV.
We're going to emphasize intelligence increase. This represents the new generation of intelligence-increasing drugs, which will be used in the 1980s, which will, among other things, allow a brain-computer link-up and allow you to become as smart or smarter than the dreams of any computer.
Another misunderstanding, and these are the kids that grew up in the 80s, where, as tiny children, they could change what was on the screen. Now, that's a power that nobody had 10 years ago, 20 years. The average kid growing up in the 80s was exposed to more information and changing on screens more information than the greatest philosophers in history.
Never mind about politics or economics or religion. It's language that controls society, controls the individual. And who controls the language controls everything. Parents control the language, therefore they control the kids. The literate, educated control the illiterate and the uneducated. The rich have the language, they can control the poor. Those that have access to television, radio, printing presses, if you control the language and the technology of the language, you control the minds. It makes a lot of sense. That if you can learn how to use the knowledge technology, the language technology, then you, rock and roll was a new language. Amplified sound was a new language. And of course we owe it to Jobs and Wozniak and the Silicon Valley people. The personal computer allows you to do exactly what these French philosophers say we got to do. Control your own screen. Now here, everyone's sitting there watching 7 hours a day screens and going off to movies, MGM, ABC. Oh, come on. They're controlling our minds. The solution is not to turn it off, because then you've given them the Einsteinian quantum physical power. We've got to learn how to change the screen.
Well, I believe that the intelligent person today is going to become a linguist, as you have to understand language and how to use language, how to package your thoughts, and how to communicate them. And the new personal computers and the new CD, compact disc, interactive techniques is bringing about an amazing change, that the computer becomes a camera or a thought processor that allows you to go right from your mind through the computer to your television screen. This is a power given to the individual which I think is going to be very liberating and going to raise the entire level of society.
One thing we know about egg intelligence, one thing we know about the Gaia biological intelligence, she's going to fill up every niche where she can go. So there's no question about it. Is it going to happen? We're being squeezed off the planet Earth the way we were squeezed from the water to the shoreline, from the shoreline to the forest, up in the trees. The unbroken trajectory of human evolution is we get higher, we move faster, we communicate better, we're better to each other, and we're getting more beautiful.
In the last 50 years, increasingly so in the last 20 years, we're coming to see that the universe itself is not a Newtonian play of forces, which is a 19th century notion, but that the universe is a network of information, and that the sunlight is information which plants can receive and decode in the form of chlorophyll, and that as long as we are organisms equipped with the kind of brains that we have, it's inevitable that we will see the universe as a giant brain. Now, when we so instead of seeing DNA as some, I don't know, of course, the DNA code itself, the concept is so new that philosophers haven't had a chance to really reflect on it. It always takes one generation for us to catch up with the implications and the human nature aspects and meanings of any breakthrough. We're just now realizing the DNA code is a brain. It's a brain that is cunningly residing in every cell of our bodies, and that it is a brain that, among other things, creates our brains, and has created our brains so exquisitely that they can continue to unfold, and we can activate new circuits of our brains.
So that the next logical step in intelligence is to start thinking in terms of the DNA code mind, or the Gaia intelligence, or the biological wisdom.
The key to space migration, intelligence creation, and life extension is genetic. And when the time comes, see, these things don't operate separately. When it's time for us to leave the water, we had to develop at one flash literally hundreds of thousands of new technologies and neurotechnologies. And I want to tell you that the same dialogue, the same debate, the same genetic issues and politics have been going on step by step as we move from unicellular form up to the present. And I think it's important that we can be able to feel in our own nervous systems that evolution has always involved people like us getting together as we are tonight, figuring out where we came from and who's slowing us down and what's the factual evidence as to how fast and where we can move.
Well, I think they're one and the same thing. Technology without spirituality is Nazism or Soviet control. But spirituality without technology is saying Om Bom and looking at your navel. You've got to bring the two together. Spirituality must be able to express itself or herself clearly and as I say, powerful thinking machines are a terror nightmare. George Orwell come true if it's not balanced by spirituality. And by spirituality I mean a humility, a humble approach to the great energies, and a sense of humor about life, and a sense of tolerance, and in a sense the ability to take another position and to see other points of view. This is what spirituality. But what's more spiritual than having quantum electrical signals coming through the air, picking it up on your satellite dish, putting it on your screen, changing it, moving it around, expressing yourself through these powerful, invisible quantum impulses, which after all are the language of the universe. What you're doing on your computer screen is the language of off-on quantum mechanical clouds of meaning.
The 21st century, it's up to those who understand how to communicate in digital language. This is the language of the galaxy, the language of atoms and quarks to communicate. We're going to be spending the 21st century an enormous amount of our time jacked in to the digital reality. We're going to be jacked in to watching screens. That's what they'll do with screens. Now people will say, well, that's a terrible situation. We are glorious human beings with all these great bodies and great time like this. And you think we're going to spend half of our time looking at couch vegetables and screens? Well, it won't be the kind of screen we're talking about, but why should we be insulted at the thought of the prospect that you'd be meditating and spend more and more time building, creating, exploring, colonizing, developing info worlds?
You're doing it. That's what cyberpunk means. Individual power to change your own body, to operate your own brain, as long as you don't hurt anybody else. So certainly in the future, you'll have plastic surgery, you can change the way you look, you can rejuvenating drugs, you can, there will be brain chips undoubtedly. Hey, it is scary, and there's no utopia here. Human nature has its dark sides. There'll always be power-hungry, evil people trying to screw it up. It's going to be more demanding, but we're getting smarter, and we're getting nicer. We're learning how to get along with each other.
The way I look at all this is the way I look at everything in life. The function of computers is to empower the individual. And I'll tell you right in front, I see the computer, I hate that word, because it implies computation and mathematics. My mother used to call, bless her heart, she used to call the refrigerator an icebox, because she used the terminology from the pre-industrial age. To use the word computer is to impose the terminology of the industrial, mechanical, robot age onto the information age. My goal in my public and private life has always been far back as I can remember, to do everything I can to encourage and empower the individual.
Think for yourself and question authority. That's the oldest message of democracy and human species. Think for yourself, question authority, and keep a smile on your face.
My logical invitation to you is going to be as follows. Turn on, tune in,
and take over.
There's no excuse for a human being in the 21st century to accept any helplessness or impotence or passivity, blaming it on genes or whatever. It's up to you. You've got to take pilot control of your own life. Now, if that isn't a fucking pep talk, locker room spellbinding, rabbi, priest talk, go for it. I'll see you in 20 years. Thank you. Good night.
Yes, this is Chris Rose from Timothy Leary. Is Bob in? Actually, maybe you can give me the information I need. All I need is the POP server password. We're switching from email to Eudora. I have the entire configuration except for the POP password.